And we continue with conversations for February 2012. Whether you're watching TV, podcast, listening on radio, or just online watching on demand, we're glad you're here. Follow Archbishop Kurtz on Twitter at Archbishop Kurtz. Real simple. We welcome your comments. Archbishop, February, the month of Valentine's. We talk a lot about love, and I think that segs in nicely. We plan to have this segment here in February. We want to continue our discussion about the sacraments and the implications of our beliefs about marriage as a sacrament. Many couples right now are in the midst of planning weddings, and many have questions about the church's practices regarding weddings.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think we should say how important to Christ and the church is a young couple, I guess I could say a couple of any age,
right,
who have fallen in love with each other and are called to the sacrament of marriage, of matrimony. It's a great gift. One of the things that people have questions about, because in our culture there's a thing now called destination weddings, and they're saying, well, why is the church even interested in this? You know, people might say, well, I want to get married in the woods or on a beach,
top
or
a sand dune on Cape Cod or whatever.
That's right, in parasailing, or maybe even in their backyard. I mean, and what does it matter for the church? And here's the thing. The sacrament is not just the wedding. The sacrament is the life of that couple that begins at the wedding. And so it's very, very important. In fact, I love that Engaged Encounter has as their theme. Engaged Encounter Weekend is one of the marriage preparation programs. I just love Engaged Encounter. I love the many programs we use, but it's a whole weekend that a man and a woman getting ready for marriage commits themselves to with the help of some trained people and with others. And here's the theme. Your wedding is a day, your marriage is a lifetime. So we're saying, that the marriage, the lifelong commitment, is the core reality that needs to be upheld. That even though marriage is going to always be, and weddings are very, very personal, there's a public nature because that marriage is communicating God's love to the world, not only to each other as a couple, but to their children and to the rest of the world.
Okay, then explain our thinking behind the policy that weddings are to take place in church.
In church. Well, first of all, because something is deeply personal, that doesn't mean it's simply private. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people think that, well, if it's personal, that means it's just up to me, it's just between me and whoever I'm going to marry. Because something is personal, it can also be public. And in fact, part of the greatness of the gift of marriage and family to our church as well as to society is the public nature. So that the church's strong commitment is that this lifelong promise needs to be made in a sacred place. It needs to be surrounded. In a sense, the wedding will set the tone. And so if the tone seems to be recreational or just let's have fun, this is not to diminish the fact that people want, maybe they met in a certain place and so they have good intentions. But the church calls that couple to remember that, as we said at the beginning of this program, marriage is for others. So the sacrament is meant for the spouse, for God, if God blesses them with children, and as witness of God's love to the world. That is best done within, first of all, to Catholics in a special way within the context of the Holy Eucharist.
Father Robert Barron had some interesting comments.
Yeah, he very interesting because, and I love, by the way, he has a great program.
Yes.
His regular program is called The Word on Fire, and
yes.
I love going to that website. But he also has that series that you and I like, Catholicism.
It was his idea, his concept, and he promoted the thing.
Yeah, very, very good.
It was a wonderful series.
Well, one of the things he said is, a man and a woman getting married do not simply receive a sacrament, they are and become the sacrament. So that we sometimes say, well, I receive the Holy Eucharist, or I receive confession, the sacrament of absolution, I receive forgiveness. And we do receive. with the sacrament of marriage, matrimony, the husband and wife, through their vows, in a sense, marry each other, perform the sacrament. Right. And that sacrament is not just what happens in church, it's their entire life. So that the holiness of the sacrament begins in that sacred place. And often, I ask couples who say, well, I'm not sure I want to do that. I ask them to be patient and to sit down and talk with wise people, talk to their local pastor, so that they begin to understand really all that their marriage is expected to be. It's a great, great gift, and it'll be an adventure.
So marriage in the church is a higher calling.
It is. It is. It's a vocation.
Right.
And we said earlier in the program that the sacrament for others, when we talk about a bishop or a priest or a deacon, you'd say, well, of course that should be in church. Well, equally, the vocation that flows from matrimony to communicate God's love to the world also has that same level of a sacred calling and a holiness.
Marriage, it seems to me we talk a lot about the love and the ceremony and so on, but talk to me about the implications of marriage.
Well, one thing is, as I said earlier, there is a strong belief that it's not just accidental that a husband marries this particular woman or a wife marries this particular man, but they are, in a sense, in some ways destined to be the font of grace for that person. In other words, to complete the spiritual life of their spouse, and if God blesses them with children, to have that overflow into the life of their children. This, and I know on a day-to-day basis, just as the life of a priest or a bishop, has its, you have to get up in the morning, and it has its I guess, routine and mundane aspects, but we should never lose sight of what I said about the life of a bishop. I need to interiorize and realize the greatness, even on the day-to-day level. And a married couple and their children, they need to realize that participation of that couple in the sacrament of matrimony is a true call to holiness and a grace that perhaps is most especially important when they're having the most difficult times in living a good life as a married couple.
As always, Archbishop, you shed some interesting light.
It's a pleasure to do this.
On the topic. And this is an ongoing topic. We will talk more about it, no doubt.
Reed, thank you.
The time goes rapidly, as always. The conversation is good and the time goes by. Now, we'd like for you to be involved with us and with Archbishop Kurtz. Follow him on Twitter at Archbishop Kurtz. And also send us your comments, your questions, or whatever. Pictures, whatever. We take them all. Email us at conversations@archlu.org. Thank you for being here, Archbishop. We'll look forward to the month of March. Spring arrives. And, of course, we'll be here with another edition of Conversations.
God bless you, Reed.
Thank you.